Well, good afternoon, ladies. Good afternoon. It is Friday. And you know what we do on a Friday? We come into the Royal Courts. Yes, we do. We come into the Royal Courts and we have us some fun. This is where we talk about everything that encompasses us as women. So grab your girlfriend, grab your cup of tea, your lunch, and join me in the Royal Courts. And I am going to see you right here in a few minutes.
Get ready for the Royalty Talk Show with host Portia Basham, the podcast designed for women who are looking to be inspired, motivated, and encouraged. Whether you're just starting out in your career or raising a family, the Royalty Talk Show has something for you. This is your opportunity for empowerment and affirmation. Get blessed with amazing stories from women of all walks of life who want to share their truths and victories and impact the lives of women everywhere. This is your cordial invitation to join us as we sip tea, chat, and empower each other on the Royalty Talk Show and podcast with your host, Portia Basham.
Well, good morning, ladies. Good morning, and welcome to another episode of the Royalty Talk Show. This is where we get the opportunity, yes, to teach, empower, and affirm you to be all that God has called you to be. Yes, listen, this podcast is all about everything that encompasses us as women. This is where we talk about our faith, our finances, our friendship, our fulfillment of life, our family, everything that encompasses us. This is where we talk about how we evolve as women. Yes, baby. Because when we turn 25 for shipping and handling, things change up in here. Yeah, okay. So grab a girlfriend, let them know that we are in the Royal Courts. Grab your tea, your lunch. I am busy, inviting everybody in the background. We have a lovely guest. We're going to be talking about marriage. So all you married ladies, girlfriend, and all you single ladies that want to be married, you want to know what you're getting into. Baby, you want to know what you're getting into, because let me tell you, marriage is not for the weak. No, it's not. Okay. So marriage is portrayed, and we know that it's portrayed in movies. I know when I watch a movie, I call husband, I say, oh, why don't you do that like they do? Because they portray marriage to be so cute and fairy tale. Yes, they do. Because, I say, husband, you see how nicely they hugged each other? Why can't we hug like that? Because you see it and your brain all of a sudden envisions that you're supposed to have it. Okay. But the reality to marriage is often far from perfect. And if we even spend the time with our great-grandparents, if we spend our time with our parents, we'll find out that there's certain things that in the background that's been going on and they didn't tell us. But anywho, there are ups and downs and joys and challenges that no one really talks about. But as women, it is important to have the realistic understanding of what marriage really entails before we take the plunge. I don't know. Some of us have taken the plunge many, many years, and we far from hi. But we're not going to go there because our guest speaker, our chat up for today, she has it all figured out. So our topic for today is the untold truth about marriage every woman should know. Every woman. So baby girls, come on. Tag, share, invite. Let me know where you're tuning in from, because we're talking about marriage. And I know y'all want all girlfriends to know about this. But this is the opportunity where we find out those truths that we want people to talk about. We're so busy hiding. We walk out of our front door and we say light, camera, action. And we're not letting people know the real stories of what's going on in the back end. So I know I went ahead of myself, so let me just tell you who I am, because you must be wondering, who's this lady just, rambling on here. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I am the host of the Royalty Talk Show. I think the Royalty Talk Show is the best talk show out there. Yes, I call it as it is. It is what it is, baby. I'm telling you. So I am the host of the Royalty Talk Show. Yes, I'm Dr. Portia Basham, your brand and business strategist, your professor at the Purpose Woman Coaching Academy, 5-time bestseller author. Listen, this is little accolades here and there. Your Forbes business counselor, yes, international speaker, all of that. But the one I like the best is the minister of the gospel. I get the opportunity to talk and to teach women about what God says in his word. Teach you how to merge your day-to-day living with the word of God. Baby, listen, God wants us to shine. God wants us to be the best version of ourselves. So I am the founder of She Ministries, and She Ministries is all about the opportunity to bring leading ladies as yourself to learn how to be the best versions of themselves. This is where we talk about the things that hold us back. This is where we talk about the things that hurt us in the past and we haven't been able to figure out how to move forward. But She Ministries is all about us coming together and going through the three processes that makes us whole, which is her brokenness, her healing, and her wholeness. So today we have the opportunity to have Coach Elisa, and I know I will mess up the last name, but you know, she loves me nevertheless, and she's told it to me many a times what the last name is, De Lorenzo, and I know I said that right because she's giving me a thumbs up, right? I said it right, De Lorenzo. Come on now, yep. Come on. And she's the co-host of the One Extraordinary Marriage Show, and she does that with her husband. Baby, let me tell you, there's a blessing, an anointing, and a grace to do business, talk show, you name it, with your husband. There has to be a grace for it because, child, honey boo boo, let me tell you, there are times we want to just tap them on the heads with the things they come up with. But she does a live with her husband. She does the podcast with her husband. She also has a book out, which we are going to talk about. The 6 Pillars of Intimacy, her best-selling book, and it is an awesome book to read. So we're going to dive into that as well. So before we bring her up, let me just first say the things that I have learned this year will make it 19 years of marriage. 19 years, I like to say 19 years of union, because sometimes we don't feel married all the time. Bless the Lord, let me just tell you the truth. We don't feel married all the time. We don't feel loved all the time. We feel like we're sometimes two individuals walking past each other, just happen to be roommates, and we just paying the bills sometimes under this household. So the things that I've learned within my many years of marriage is, number one, communication is key in a marriage. And I think we all would agree with that. But it's easier said than done. I think it's easier said than done. Why? Because you need somebody to communicate with. So if the husband is not prepared to communicate with you, baby girl, you'll be talking to yourself till the cows come around. Okay, but communication is the key to a marriage. It's not just about talking to each other, but more like listening and understanding what each other's needs and feelings are. And I know when my guest speaker comes on board, she will definitely dive into that. The second thing that I learned along the way is marriage requires compromise from both parties. Let me tell you, sometimes we go into the marriage and we're always thinking that we're going to do what we're going to do and let it be. But I believe we have to understand that people say it's a 50-50. Baby girl, you got to come in with the 100, you got to come in with the 100, because if it is 50-50, you live in a whole lot of 50 left over that you're not doing and you're not achieving. So I believe it's 100-100. You want it to work, I want it to work. We got to come in full force to make it work. It's just like going into the ring to fight. You kind of go into a ring to fight with somebody, there's nobody in the ring to fight with. You gotta have an opponent. You gotta come all ready for it. You know, although between you and me, sometimes it feels like a fight in the ring. But anyway, we'll come back to that. So you may have different personalities and interests or ways of doing things, and you could agree to disagree on many things, but there are things that are just you need to come as one to agree on for the marriage to work. And last thing that I will tell you that I've learned, maintaining intimacy in a marriage, it takes effort. Baby, it takes effort. You believe, the honeymoon stages where you walk past and the baby's going to see all of that and say, hey. But after a while, hey, starts to look normal. Hey, starts to look like, oh yeah, I've seen that, beat that, done it. But you have to maintain the intimacy. You have to set aside your busy schedules and put each other first. And let me tell you, you cannot just show up. I think for me, as you get older, you realize you have to make an appointment for these kind of things. Maybe I'll see you 9:00 Saturday, that kind of thing. But I said all what I have to say on my side of what I have learned in this year, making it 19 years of marriage. So now I am going to bring our guest speaker on right after these messages.
Get ready for the Royalty Talk.
Want to elevate your leadership skills? Join our Christian Leadership Certification Program, covering team leadership, ministry counseling, financial management, and more. Advance your Christian leadership skills with an accredited certificate program from the esteemed partnership of Christian Bible Institute and Seminary. Visit PortiaBasham.com/Christian Leadership Certification. Register today and become the Christian leader you are destined to be.
Well, welcome. I'm super excited that you are here with us.
I'm so
I would
thankful.
like you to tell us a little about yourself and the fun fact. And I want the fun fact to be juicy because, listen, we have a lot of questions for you.
Okay, well, fun fact, I'll just start with the fun fact. 27, almost 28 years into marriage, I can honestly tell, and I say this a lot, I'm having the best sex of my life with my husband of 28 years now, way better than it ever was when we were newlyweds. So, fun fact. As far as who I am,
That's the best fun fact I've heard. I just want to say that right now. Okay, I just want to say that that's the best fun fact. Keep it going.
Thank you. So my name is Elisa DiLorenzo, and my husband and I do work together. 14 years ago, we launched our podcast, One Extraordinary Marriage, but that came out of our dysfunction. We were a couple 11, 12 years into marriage that were doing an okay job of living as roommates. We were, not hardly speaking to each other. We had 2 little kids, and we were just kind of going through the motions. And we got radical, changed our marriage through a 60-day sex challenge. And yeah, that face, that's the thing. And rediscovered that it's not just sex that makes marriage amazing. It's intentionality in those 6 years. And so for the last 14 years, we've been speaking to a worldwide audience, writing numerous books. 6 Pillars of Intimacy was my 7th book. We've got 9 books out now. But really on a mission to equip couples and individuals around the world to create the extraordinary marriage that they desire.
I love it. I love it because you know what? We don't talk about marriage like that. We talk about marriage, well, man and woman comes together. We talk about marriage, man and woman supposed to be married with each other. We talk about marriage like that from a Christian standpoint. That's how we talk about. We do not go into the real corners and cracks of what it takes. Let me tell you, we don't go for the fact that you got scars that nobody sees within a marriage. I could listen.
It's so easy to hide.
Yes, it is so easy to hide. Tell me, before we even dive into our questions, tell me, how did the book of the 6 Pillars of Intimacy really come around? I think you've mentioned a little bit, so dive into that.
Yeah. So when all of those years ago, when Tony and I did our 60-day sex challenge, it started out as sex. People hear that and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" It was all
wait. Let's put a stop there. Tell me how y'all came up with that challenge there, and then we'll go into the book. I'm interested in hearing that one now.
Well, let's talk about it. So you go back to the fall of 2008, like August-ish 2008. Really dysfunctional. Beginning of the recession, like there's just a whole bunch of life going on, a lot of stress. Tony and I have a 2 and a 5-year-old. We are literally, we were probably having sex like once a month, maybe. And we were watching this television segment because some of our friends, their kids were on the Today Show. And the segment right after their kids were these couples that had done 2 sex challenges. One had given her husband sex for a year for his 40th birthday. The other couple did 101 days straight. Tony looks at me because we're getting ready to lead a small group at our church. And he says, "What if for the 8 weeks of the study, we'll just round up, let's call it 60. What if we do a 60-day sex challenge?" And I immediately, I don't even think, Portia, that he finished the question. I immediately was like, "Oh, no way. Nah, I'm not doing that." We're not connected. I couldn't even, I got up out of bed and went and put on a fabulous green face mask. I'm like, "You're not getting any tonight either. This is not an idea."
Yeah, but it's a no. You could tell.
But let me tell you something. You never know when God's going to get your attention and change your life dramatically. So that's on the evening. The next day, I'm literally standing in my garage with a basket full of laundry, and I hear the audible voice of God say, "If you're not willing to try, your marriage is over." I was like, "Are you sure this is and then you start arguing with God, right? You're like, "Are you sure this is, are you sure?" And so Tony comes home from work that day. I say, "I'm in." We ended up completing 40 out of 60 because of illness and travel and all. But what we learned in there, and that would become the catalyst for all of our work, but ultimately for the 6 pillars of intimacy, is that 1, you can't have sex 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't care how many husbands or wives think that sounds like a feasible thing. It's physically impossible to have sex all the time. Okay. So if you can't have sex.
Say it for those in the back, because I think the ones in the front only heard that part.
You just can't. You can't have sex all the time. And so we have to look at our marriages holistically.
Yes.
And that's where the 6 pillars came from. It's looking at your emotional, your physical, your financial, your spiritual, your recreational, and your sexual intimacy. When all 6 of those are strong.
Yes.
Now, or being strengthened. Let me say that, because
Yes.
we're all in flux. Nobody arrives. But when they're all being strengthened, that's where the extraordinary comes. That's where we can get excited about what we're doing, because we see action and intentionality in our marriages.
Yes. Yes. I like the fact that you say it's not just about sex, but it's about those areas, because if any one of those areas are weak, we find ourselves stressed, especially if the man is not. Listen, you have men that any little thing weighs them down. You know, just the slightest thing, they're done for it, and there you, the woman, have to try to hold everything up. So my first question for you is, can you share some common misconceptions about marriage that you've encountered in your experience as a coach, and how these misconceptions can impact our relationships?
Yeah, well, I think the first one is, we recognize the fact that we're in love with this person. So we think that love is going to be enough, right? Like if I love you and you love, let's establish love is there. But just because you all love each other doesn't mean you're twins. It doesn't mean that you're identical. And it doesn't mean that you're going to do life in the exact same way.
Same way.
Here's where this gets proven right after the wedding. Somebody goes and loads the dishwasher, right? You're laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a reason those memes go out that somebody loads the dishwasher like a Scandinavian architect and somebody else loads it like a raccoon going through the
Yes, just throw it anyhow. No design to it.
So I'm telling you, from the dishwasher example, we are different, but we expect our spouses to be just like us, to think just like us, to act just like us. So we've got to address that myth that your spouse is not just like you.
Yes.
Sorry, they're not. We're going to do life differently. The other thing is that, or a couple other things, is that comparison is going to be real. I got married in 1996, so way before social media. Like the only time you knew what was going on with other people is when you got together.
Yes.
Now I can scroll through Instagram, Facebook, social media platform of choice, and I can be like, oh, like you were saying earlier, oh, look at that husband. Look at look at that trip. Yes. Look at the vacation they're on. Why aren't you doing that for me? We're looking at everybody else's perfect marriages on the outside, thinking they don't have problems. I'm telling you, they only pulled it together for that one little snapshot.
Yes. And we are envious of that, because it looks, get me right, it looks the part. You know, now funny, you were talking about how you got your life together when you realized you were just 2 people in a household. I know marriages that are like that, and some people would say it's perfect. No, it's not perfect, because now you are just 2 individuals. There's no intimacy, and I'm not talking about sex. There's no intimacy. There's no laughter. There's no time spent. I remember when we went to marriage counseling, the counselor said to me, "Mrs. Basham, you're having a full conversation with your husband in your head."
Yes.
Not with your husband. So you arguing because he doesn't do this, do that, but you have not verbally sat down and had the conversation to the point that the 2 of you are listening and understanding where you are at. Oh, and that hits home, because he's like, you the judge, jury, all up in here, and this man doesn't have a clue what's going on.
He was right. We do it, right? We also expect, and you mentioned this earlier, Portia, I'm glad you did. We expect our marriages to look like Hollywood movies.
Yes.
And when I was doing the research for 6 pillars of intimacy, there's somewhere between 200 and 300 cast and crew members for the average movie. Now, I don't know about you, but if I had 300 people to make sure that my hair was good, my makeup was good, the lighting was right, the music was right, and that my husband would say the right thing every single time,
At the right time.
it would be so much easier to be married. But the reality is, I have to do my own hair. I do my own makeup.
Yes.
I say my own words. He says his own words. And sometimes those scripts are not for the same movie. Right. And so we can get into this place of just total disconnect. We don't look like movies.
Yes, we do. Now, I was reading through your book, and what the way we came up with the topic was because of that section of your book. You have a section of the book actually named "What No One Ever Told You About Marriage." Listen, that right there spoke volumes to me. But when you went on like this, you said it turns out that being married is a lot harder and a lot more challenging than planning a wedding. I want them to hear it with the best air of theirs, because people think once you put the wedding together, your marriage is going to be awesome. And then you said there are lots of reasons why this is true. And you went through your challenges. Your first challenge, you said, was your spouse is going to handle life differently. Your spouse is going to handle life differently. I think some people fail to realize we are two individuals coming together. Your second one, you said marriage doesn't come with a manual. Well, that closed the book right there for me. Talk to me about marriage doesn't come with a manual.
You know, it would be so easy, right? You get a new vacuum cleaner, you can buy a new car, you get a new computer, your phone's not doing what you want it to do. And what do? We go to Google, we go to YouTube, we open up the manual in the glove box of our car, and we're like, okay, how do I troubleshoot this problem?
Yes.
Problem is, for ourselves and our relationships, is this other person, they didn't come with a manual. So we've actually got to step into this place as wives, as spouses, and say, you know what? How do I write the manual? What do I have to ask you? How do I get curious about you, no matter how long we've been married, to find out what are the best practices now? What do you enjoy? What do you like? How am I speaking to you? How does my tone of voice impact you? What does our sex life look like together? Like stepping into this place where we are saying, you know what? You didn't come with a manual, but I'm going to stay so curious about you that I will create the manual for our marriage, that I will learn best practices for you. Just because you didn't come with a manual doesn't mean I can't go on a lifelong journey to figure you out and be able to have a manual for our marriage.
I love that. I love that. And I heard somebody, was it in my church, or was it online? But the person said, tell your husband, I enjoy doing life with you. And I think that sentence is so true. We fail to realize that we are actually doing life with somebody. We're doing life with somebody. And you've been married for 27 years. That means 27. You've spent 2 decades with this man.
3 decades, including our dating life.
Oh, okay, 3 decades.
We're so close to 3 decades. Let's just round up. Round up. I'm claiming it.
Let's just round it up. 3 decades with this man. And that means you cannot write your life story without including him in it.
I've spent more years with him than without.
Yes.
He is woven into the fabric of my life in such a complete way. But I think that also drives home the fact, and I was thinking about this as you were talking, Portia, in Genesis, it talks about the two shall become one. And that's a lifelong journey. Just because, I have spent the last 30 years with Tony, there were 20 years before him, but stepping into this place of saying, how are we building the most amazing oneness together? Not just saying, hey, we are married. It says that we're one, but that we're actually weaving our lives together, no matter how long you've been married, to become one.
Yes. To become one. Now, some people look at one as just being the fact that the person would assume what they're saying, but being one is actually saying, this is life with you. I cannot do it without you. Just the same way you see the Holy Spirit, the Father, and Jesus, they are one. They move as one. Well, when we get married, we move as one. I love that. My next question for you is, in your opinion, what are some of the key aspects of marriage that often get overlooked or underestimated by couples entering into it, and why are they important?
Well, there are so many moving parts to a strong and healthy marriage, but I think some of the ones that are overlooked, like, well, I'm going to jump back to my fun fact. I think the value of sexual intimacy in marriage is overlooked. I think it
Yes.
becomes one of those things where it's like, yeah, we will or we won't, but we don't take it into this place of understanding that lifelong sexual intimacy, that it's not just for the, hey, we're married now, let's have sex, or we want to make a baby, let's have sex. But looking at that over the course of a marriage and saying, in all of our ages and stages and all the different things that are going on with our body, that form of connection, that is the only intimacy that is between husband and wife. You can have emotional intimacy with your kids. You can have emotional intimacy with your girlfriend.
Yes.
You can have financial intimacy with your business partner. Like, you can take the other 5 and do those with other people.
Yeah.
Cool. Sexual intimacy over the course of a marriage between husband and wife is such a gift to both husband and wife. So I think that one, and again, it comes back to movies where it says, what? Oh yeah, couples don't have sex after a few years. All the single people, all the young people are having sex, not the people married 30 years.
I couldn't understand that. I think I remembered in the early stages of my marriage, I said, wait a minute, I believe the single people are having more fun in the bedrooms than me being married. What's going on here? The script was completely flipped.
Right. And so, like, I'm on a mission to flip that script back. We were recently, we hosted 28 couples in Cancun for our 6 Pillars in Paradise marriage getaway. And when we were talking about sexual intimacy, I, like, hands down on the table, looked at this room full of 60 people, and I said, there is absolutely no reason on the planet why all those singles and 20-somethings should be having better sex than this room full of people.
Yes, married people.
Yeah, they were all married couple, but yes, we should be having the best sex because we get the ability to know each other. That's another thing that's understated, is that we think that there are just some people that have these skills. Like, some people are good communicators, right? And so I'm just not. It's understated that we can develop skills in every area of our marriage.
Yes.
People tell me, at least I'm not a talker. I'm like, Tony wasn't a talker 14 years ago before we started having a conversation once a week.
Come on.
Right? Like, I've learned how to, engage during conflict. I would have told you 15 years ago that I was conflict avoidant. Now we get into a fight and I'm like, bring it. Let's have this conversation. Let's have this conversation. I will stay in. I won't shut down. Like, it matters. You can learn how to do it. You don't just have to default to, this is just the way I am.
Yes.
Because
I agree.
I believe God made us to be growing, living, changing human beings that can develop over the course of our lives. Right. And if we don't, then we're not honoring the God who made us to grow into this relationship, to grow into this space where it's like, why can't I be better? Why can't I develop more tomorrow than I was today?
And you know what? The other thing too that I learned along the way is, you have to, number one, watch how you bring your sentence across, because sometimes you say something in good intention, but the way you say it,
100%,
the way you say it matters. I have learned that, for example, my husband's a lawyer, so I cannot sound all wretched talking to my husband. Come on now, you want to bring something across, you have to bring it across like as if you laying out a case. Now, I used to get upset about that, but when I think about it, he will quicker listen to, all right, so this is whatever it is, you speak more or less the way they understand. Yelling and screaming wouldn't make anything change. It wouldn't. But telling the person, explaining to them what your intentions are, and let me put a stop into this. Do you know, a lot of the times we go into a marriage, a union marriage, and haven't listened to what the person's idea of marriage is and what your idea of marriage is. Because those two people come together, their idea of marriage and your idea of marriage are two different.
Yes.
And then when you sign those papers and now you are under the same roof, you realize the two of you are nowhere on the same page. Talk to me a little about that.
Well, it's, we get so wrapped up in the feelings and all of the emotions and that. And I mean, I get it. I was there. Tony and I loved each other, right? Like we didn't talk about, we talked about our childhoods, but we didn't talk about like what our parents' marriages look like.
Yes.
We didn't talk about what we had seen growing up. We didn't talk about those expectations. And
Yes.
I'll tell you, you've got expectations when you start feeling irritated at what they're doing.
Yes.
That's a really good, and I would say that for anybody watching this, right? Like if you're feeling irritated at what your spouse does, before you open your mouth and get a little feisty, sassy, cranky, whatever it comes out, take a look at yourself and say, are there expectations that I have not acknowledged or shared?
Yes. Yes.
Because all of that programming that we have from way back here, all the people in our lives about how they do marriage and how fights go down and how he should love me or open the car door or all this kind of stuff. We show up with that.
Yes.
There are all of these unspoken scripts that we are operating out of. And we know that they're there when irritations happen. So step into this place, ladies, of discovery, of saying, oh, that might be a script that I haven't actually opened up and investigated. And did that come from my mom? Did that come from my dad?
Yes.
Where's it coming from? And what do I need to share with my husband so that he can, and to your point, in a tone of voice that he can hear you?
Yes, that's the part, that he could hear you. Yes, that he could. I love it. Speak in a tone of voice that he could hear you, which is so true. Because if we are having an argument, my husband and I are having a blah, 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 he's blah, 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 blah. I say nothing. I sit, I listen, I sit there. The next day when he's calm, I will like, okay, we need to talk. Now it is in a better environment. We are in a better frame of mind to hear what each other is saying and actually pay attention. And baby girl, it didn't just happen just so. It took years to get there. Well, I remember on our honeymoon, we took a 15 days cruise to Hawaii. Now, you and I both know if you take a 15 days cruise, you on a boat with everybody that's 70 and up. So you're the youngest by 50 and you're the youngest by, listen,
yeah.
Okay. So we're on this cruise to Hawaii, okay? And we were going to visit, it's 5 days on land, 5 days on sea, then 5 days to go to each island. So you go to this island per day, and then 5 days back. So that's your 15 days. And so many things happened on that. But I will come to this one. I remember I was walking through the lobby area of the cruise, and I came across a group of ladies, 5 ladies. All of them were, like late 60s, almost late 70s, and they were crocheting and knitting. So these were the things that they were doing that kind of resonated with me. Sure. So I went up and I said, "Oh my God, you all are knitting. What are you crocheting? What are you knitting?" They looked up at me and they said, "Baby girl, what you doing on this cruise ship?" I said, "Oh, I'm on my honeymoon." They said, "Really? Come, sit." And I sat down. They said, "Where's your husband?" I said, "Oh, he's somewhere around, doing his stuff." And then they said, "Baby girl, you gotta train this man." I said, "Train him? What do you mean by training?" Listen, my young, 29-year-old self, what I could tell you about that. They go, "Yes, you have to train him." I said, "Train him?" They go, "Yes, train him how to love you. Train him how to be present in the marriage. Train him." And I could not relate to that. It took me years later to understand what they meant by train him, because we fail to realize. I tell you what I used to do. If I came and treat you well, I brought you your cup of coffee, I brought you your this, I did this for you, that for you. I'm under the assumption that being I did it for you, you're going to do it for me. And it doesn't work that way. Because I used to get upset because why couldn't you bring me the cup of tea the way I brought you the cup of coffee?
Because I did not know, dear wife, that bringing you a cup of tea or coffee was something important to you, because you didn't tell me.
Didn't tell me. There you go.
You didn't tell, because I can hear, I've sat across, as a coach, I've sat across from enough couples. I'm like, I know exactly what his response was to that. She didn't tell me she wanted. I just thought she was being nice. She didn't tell me.
That's exactly what he said.
I've sat across from a few hundred people. I'm well versed. But that's the thing. And this is where that communication piece that you mentioned earlier is so important, because I don't care how long you've been married. Tony and I have been together for 30 years. You would think by now the man could read my mind. He would know. You would think. And that's the assumption that we all operate off of.
Yes.
But it's not fair to us, and it's not fair to our husbands to stay in this place. Well, if you loved me, you would know.
You would know.
I wouldn't have to tell you. Let's actually flip that and say, I love you so much. I'm going to tell you what matters to me. I love you so much that
that's good.
I'm going to share with you that, you know what? I love it when you bring me a cup of tea in the morning, because it just says, oh, honey, I love you. And it makes my heart. And now he knows. And now he's like, oh, it's just
I'm gonna call my husband after this, and I'm gonna say, babes, you know why you have to bring me tea in the morning?
I love your intentionality there, because doing that and letting him know how much it's appreciated.
Yes.
Our men want to feel appreciated. They want to know that it wasn't just how much we appreciated them putting a ring on our finger.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know
paying the bills in the house.
They want to know that they are appreciated for being the man in our lives, that who they are, not what they do, but who they are, is important to us. That's where that intimacy, the closeness and connection comes from. It's when we feel valued and when they feel valued.
Yes. I love that. Now that takes us to our next question for you. How do society's expectations, cultural norms surrounding marriage contribute to the unrealistic ideas, because I got some of those, baby, pressures placed on couples? And what advice would you offer for navigating those influences? Because, baby, I came into the marriage with some of those.
Oh, well, I think, it comes back to what we were just talking about with the scripts. Like, you've got to evaluate, like, did your mom tell you, this is what men do, or this is how men act, right? Did you see it with all of the women in your life? These are the marriages they got into, or maybe, if we go back to social media, are you flipping through going, well, everybody else has a husband who on their first anniversary,
Put them a yacht.
Yeah. Here's how this plays out, like real life, even in my own marriage. So my kids are 21 and 18, which means that a whole bunch of years ago, that's the 2 decades, I was making babies and having babies. 2 decades ago, there were not things called push presents, right? The gift that a wife gets for having a baby. Your gift was the little bundle of joy.
That's it.
That you got to diaper for the next 2 years. That was your push present. And so I started seeing this happen, right? Like, oh, she's getting this piece of jewelry. She's getting this car. And I'm like, what's going? Where's mine? Just because mine are older, like, where's mine? But then I realized that's a new cultural norm.
Yes.
There's this exchange of gifts for bringing a baby into the world. And I'm not saying everybody does that.
Yes.
But I had to look at myself and go, hold on a second. That's not the marriage that Tony and I have. How we exchange gifts and what we value is very different.
Yes.
And so when we see those societal norms, and it could be on, who's the provider, it could be whose child is raising kids, it could be, division of labor in the house, whatever that is, whatever you've seen or you are experiencing. Look, if it's working for the two of you, go with it. If it's not, then this is where the two of you have such a tremendous opportunity to grow together and say, let's talk about what we're seeing. Is that what we want? And if so, how do we make it happen the way we're wired, the way our marriage looks? Or can we look at that and say, you know what? I get that a lot of people are doing that, but that's actually not a good fit for us.
Yes.
And we're going to choose something different. And it's going to be okay, because we're going to do that together. Right. And so I will tell you, when I tell people I did a 60-day sex challenge with my husband, people are like, why? Why would you do that? That went against the cultural norm that says wives married, 15 years don't have that much sex with their husbands. And I'm like, but why?
Yes.
We can't just be wives on autopilot. We have to be wives who are engaged and say, what if that cultural norm isn't working for our marriage? We don't have to do it.
Yeah.
We don't have to do it.
The coming into the marriage, my idea was very biblical, very scriptural, because I was, kind of raised in the Christian faith. So, your idea is you do as your husband say, you cook, you clean, your husband wants to have sex with you, you have sex with your husband, whether you're upset or not. There was no real talk about the back ends of what a marriage entails. The Christian faith back then was, if something wasn't going on right in your marriage, just go pray about it, you'll be all right. But nobody took the time to say, well, what really is the problem? Did you bring past traumas into this marriage? Did you bring past failed relationship ideology into the marriage? Nobody sat down really and see the dark corners of what you go through within a marriage. And a lot of couples come into a marriage like that. They just come into the marriage based on the fact that I love you, you love me, so we're just going to do life together. But you fail to realize that the person is bringing an entire busload of their past traumas, their ideologies, the way they see things, and those two busloads are going to try to fill a house.
And you say busloads. I often say suitcases filled with garbage because it starts to stink.
Yeah.
Right. If we don't, and this brings up a really good point, like coming into marriage, or even if you've been married for a number of years, if you've got traumas, if you've got, unresolved ish, whatever that is, it is in your best interest. And that in your relationship to say, you know what, I'm going to raise my hand. I've got some things that I have not dealt with, honey. And I need to go, I need to start working on me individually. So if that's individual therapy or counseling or coaching.
Yes.
And when I get healthy, I also want to come together with you, because our marriage is only going to be as emotionally and relationally healthy as the two people in the marriage.
Yes, I agree to that. And there are some issues that when I see my husband acting out, I say, okay, that has nothing to do with me. That right there is all you. You're going to have to deal with that. And then when you're done dealing with it, you and I could come together and discuss it. Because before, I was trying to be the Jane of all trades to you, but I can't be the Jane of all trades to you, because we are two individuals, even if we are married. So there are things that individually we have to treat or overcome on our own as individuals. And then once we become the best healthy versions of ourselves, we could show up in the marriage differently. And that, my dear, I learned along the way. Hey, that I learned along the way. So I have another question for you. What insights or lessons have you gained? And trust me, you listen, baby girl, you got decades to tell us about. So what lessons and insights have you gained from your own personal experiences or observations that challenge the conventional wisdom about marriage, and how can these perceptions benefit others in their own relationship?
I think one of the things I've learned is that it's never too late to start developing the skills that you need for the marriage you have.
Yes.
Because I mean, the only thing that, there's only two things that make it too late, and that's death and divorce, right? Before that, you start working on those skills. If you recognize, I had to do it myself. I went on this journey last year. I was raised, and my parents know I talk about them, so I'm not uncovering them. My dad is a very quiet man, but he can get just a very authoritative tone of voice when he's angry. When my mom hears that voice, she completely shuts down. She just I'm not dealing with it. So, and I married an Italian man whose voice and animations by nature are just loud and big. So here you go. And so for well over 2 decades of our marriage, when Tony would get loud, I would just completely shut down and I would lower my eyes. I wouldn't look at him. And so last year I said, okay, you know what, Elisa, here's what you're going to do. And I did not tell him. I was because I didn't want to be held accountable, and I didn't want him saying, you're not doing this. That's why I didn't tell him. So I would step into this place of saying, you know, when he raises his voice, you're going to maintain eye contact. You don't have to say anything. You just have to maintain. And so I stepped into this place where I was like, I'm going to stretch myself. Portia, I'm going to step into this place of saying, I'm engaging with you. And so I would make eye contact and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm listening. I'm engaged. And it started to shift what we were doing. I learned that you can learn new things. You can say, you know what, I'm going to make something a priority, even if the world doesn't make it a priority. People think we're crazy for the fact that, 13-ish, I think 13, 14 years ago, we started scheduling sex into our marriage. I feel like I have a whole lot more sex than the people that are just like, oh, wait until it happens. And then you're
winging it, just winging it.
Right. And I've seen happen in our marriage and in our audience, which we call the one family. There are couples having sex like 200 times in a year because they said, if we schedule it and make it a priority, everything will shift. We get it done. We make it happen. The other thing that I've seen that I think just sums this all up is, for too many years, marriage has been this relationship that we put all this intentionality into the wedding, and then we take our hands off the wheel and we say, I hope it turns out well in 50 years.
Yes.
What I've seen time and time again in my own marriage and in the one family is that if we get intentional and we take action together as a couple, we can create that happily ever after. We can create 50 years that, yes, they'll have ups and downs, but these are happy, extraordinary marriages because two people are putting forth effort and they're not just saying, I hope this is going to turn out okay.
One of the things that I will say about the schedule sex on your calendar is, number one, you look forward to it.
Anticipation is a good thing.
Yes, you look forward to it. You prepare. You prepare for it. Your mind is into it. Your body's into it. You're like, hey, let me see which character I could be today. That kind of thing. But you look forward to it, and that there is some form of excitement. That's the choice. Looking forward to that. Last year, Last year, I had a surgery done, so I was home, quite a bit, and I started to bench watch Korean shows. Yes, baby girl, they didn't speak a lick of English. I was bench watching, reading every caption, and if I missed a word, I had to rewind to read the caption to keep it together. Yes, that was the state of the union over here.
Wow. Wow.
Yes, I was committed. I was very committed, and but in watching it, there was this one movie that I remember, oh my God, and I watched it over and over and over, only because of the way they portrayed the romance between the character, the two characters. He loved this woman, but it was subtle. And it was the way, so I started to say, but wait a minute now, I want a relationship like that. But then the thing is, as much as we want the relationship, but what we're doing to get the relationship to that point, though. You could sit there and say, oh, I wish my husband would hug me like that. Yeah, but then what are you doing to get that kind of hug, though? Are you communicating the fact that you want that hug? Are you communicating the fact that you actually look forward to being embraced, to show that there's a safe place in your arms, kind of thing? So the more I watched the movie, the more I kept learning just certain things that I was looking forward to when my husband walked through the door. Let me tell you, baby, after being married for so long, this man walks through this door, the man goes, hello, yeah, and you keep,
Oh yeah.
We've reached to this point because you've been there for so long. But in watching this movie, I started to look forward to him walking through the door. I started to look forward to him walking through the door. I started to look forward to seeing him, at home and doing stuff with us. But that took years of looking at the marriage through a different lens.
Well, and
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I appreciate you sharing that because, I think part of the heart behind doing a show like this and having this conversation on your show is, ladies, if you have not been married as long as we have, oh my gosh, will you please just take like the shortcut, take the easy, like take what you're hearing between Portia and I and
Yes.
say, okay, I don't want to have to say years or decades until I figured it out. Start doing it, because I can't imagine, Portia, when you started getting excited about your husband coming home and he started walking in the door, you're like, husband, like,
Yes.
he's going to get excited to come home.
Yes.
It's going to change your evening. It's going to change your conversations. It's going to change how he interacts with the kids. Why?
Yes.
Because if we make home a place where our husbands want to walk in the door, we've changed everything.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we can do that as women. We can step into that place and create a space where they're like, oh, wait. And just as a side note, if your place is where he wants to come home to, this one's free of charge. He's not going to be looking at any other homes to walk into.
Come on now.
I'm just saying, make this place the best place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't even open the door for any.
That's it. And let me tell you that people think that if you're doing all the fancy little sex things, that's what keeps the person. If you do, no, it's an entire package. It is how you approach the person. It is how you serve the person. It is how you address the person. It all comes down to an entire package. It is not just about putting on heels and having no. That is the icing on the cake.
Yes.
That is the icing on the cake. It's how you raise the kids. It's how it's how you put the house together. When they walk through the house, what's the ambience in the house when they walk in? Is it tranquil? Is it loud and rowdy? What is it when they walk? How many times you come and you sit down in the car and you say, Lord, do I have to actually walk through the door?
Mm-hmm.
But when it's a happy place, the person pulls up and the person is excited to get out of that car.
Yeah.
And to come in through the front door.
Mm-hmm.
But all that is a learned behavior. Come on now. Tell them, Coach Alicia. It is a learned behavior.
It's a learned behavior. And not only is it a learned behavior, Portia, but I'll take it one step further. It's a choice.
Yes.
We get to choose if we are going to learn that behavior. We get to choose if this relationship is so important to us that we will step into that place to say, you know what? Yeah, it hasn't been a great day, but I can get a smile on my face. I can walk in here. I can watch my tone of voice. I can be mindful of finding out what kind of day he's had. And I can show up in a way that says, I value you and I love you. Even when we're having hard times, we can choose it. We don't have to just go on autopilot. We don't just have to default to the world saying, oh, just, treat your man like trash or whatever it is, because he'll take it. No, I've sat across from way too many couples. Every husband has a point where he's like, I'm not taking this anymore.
Yes. Yes. What they say when I was growing up, I used to have every rope has an end.
I like that one.
Every rope has an end. So listen, hold on to that rope and try not to make the end come too quickly, because every rope has an end.
Yes, it does.
So Miss Coach Elisa, we had a fabulous time talking, and I know we could continue till tomorrow, because that topic is a heavy duty topic. Excuse me, but also a very interesting one. So tell the ladies, give the ladies 2 points of encouragement for me, and then also tell us how we could get in contact with you and what you have coming up.
2 points of encouragement. Ladies, you can take action in your marriage. You can create change. Be intentional and take action. Keep those 2 at the top in everything that you do. So where you find me, oneextraordinarymarriage.com, at oneextraordinarymarriage on social media. That tells you everything that we've got going on. It's our social media handles. You can find the podcast wherever you're listening to this. If you search for One Extraordinary Marriage, you'll see the feet. That's our cover art for our podcast. You'll know you're in the right place. As far as what's coming up, some exciting things. Tony and I are going to be, later this year, we're going to be in Atlanta for Fort Worth and Chicago doing events. And then I'm also just spending a tremendous amount of time with my wives in the Bold Wives Club, where I'm having conversations like this and equipping wives to really be bold, to be brave, open-minded, loving, and decisive. So that's all that's going on right now.
Bold and open-minded and decisive. I like that. Yes. Well, it has been an honor to sit and to chat with you. I thank you so much, number one, for encouraging us and letting us see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Number two, for empowering us to the point that we could have the marriage that God intended us to have. And then number three, for us to see that if you have longevity, there is longevity in a marriage for us. So it is always good to sit on the outskirts and to glean from those who have actually walked the path that we are super excited to walk as wives in our marriage. So thank you so much for joining us here. I'm going to put you in the backstage and I'm going to come back and love upon you as soon as I wrap up with the ladies. Thank you.
Wonderful.
So
it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So ladies, we had the pleasure of talking with Coach Elisa, and we spoke on the untold truth of marriage that every woman should know. There are many of us that are married and we came into the marriage without even knowing what's going on, what to expect. And then there are those who are desiring to be married, but you need to know what to expect, because it is not just bells and whistles like we see on the television. Marriage isn't always rainbows and butterflies. Let me tell you, it's not about rainbows and butterflies or portrays that fairy tale, no, but rather it's a journey filled with highs and lows that requires patience, understanding, and the effort from both parties involved. Okay, so by being aware of these untold truths about marriage, such as communication skills, intimacy, conflict resolution strategies, self-care tips, we as women, we could approach our marriage with realistic expectations. And I like that choice of words, realistic expectations, okay, thereby fostering a stronger and healthier relationship with our spouse in the long run. So I really pray that this segment was a blessing to you, because we don't get the opportunity to dive in to the real corners and cracks of what marriage really is all about. We always just take a look at seeing what it is showcased on television. Most of the times when a celebrity gets married, they go through and they show you all the pictures and stuff of the wedding and what this one's doing. And all of a sudden it collapses, and then you go, oh my God, we didn't see that coming. Well, baby, you didn't see the back end of the real marriage. You just saw what they wanted you to see. And sometimes what they want you to see is not really what's going on the back end of it. So I pray that today's session really was an eye-opener for you. Okay, you go ahead and listen to us on all the podcast platforms. If you'd like to know more about our guest speaker, I'm going to put her details in the chat when we are done. I will give you quickly some visibility opportunities. If you'd like to be a guest on the Royalty Talk Show, go ahead and send us your email and information via info@PortiaBasham.com. If you'd like to be a guest speaker on She Ministries TV show, go ahead and send us your information at info@PortiaBasham.com. Likewise, we had the opportunity of having a three-day Her Brokenness Challenge. This is where we started to acknowledge what was going on with us from the deeper side of life, because we show up looking all put together, but we have scars. So Her Brokenness Challenge was all about that. So if you are part of the Leading Ladies Tribe, go ahead and watch the replay on that. I also gave the opportunity for the ladies to join me on the 4 weeks coaching program for Her Brokenness, which is where we come in and we dive in 4 weeks and we go through the challenges that so hold us back. So if you're tired of carrying that weight of your past pain, come and join us on the Her Brokenness 4 weeks program. This is where we talk about her report the first week, her release the second week, her reactivation, and her celebration on the 4th week. So I'm super excited about this upcoming coaching program where we just sit down and we dive into who you are and who God has called you to be. Amen. And not make those struggles be the anchor that keeps you from being the best version of yourself. So, ladies, I will see you next week, Friday, right here for another episode of the Royalty Talk podcast. I give you hugs and kisses. Remember, you are blessed, saved, and highly favored to be all that God has called you to be. I am your host, Dr. Portia Basham, and I will see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Royalty Talk Show with your host, Portia Basham, the talk show and podcast designed for women who are looking to be inspired, motivated, and encouraged. We pray today's show was a blessing to you. Remember to tune in next time for your regular dose of encouragement and affirmation, so you can hear from other amazing women from all walks of life who share their stories and advice on everything from personal growth to living their dreams. So until next time, we look forward to seeing you to sip some tea, chat, and empower each other on the Royalty Talk Show